Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. How's Eddie Frederick?
So glad you can join us. Barbados' Prime Minister challenges the international community in her latest address to the United Nations. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Monday, 27th September 2021. Details when we return.
Hubbard's big promotion is back. Live free for 1 year. Spend $50 or more in any Hubbard's department and receive a chance to win big prizes every month. Property or vehicle insurance for 1 year. Free internet, cable and data for 1 year. Free fuel for 1 year. Free cooking gas for 1 year. Free electricity for 1 year. Free drinks for 1 year. Extra cash account and the big free groceries for 1 year. Promotion runs from April 1st to September 30th, 2021. Live free for 1 year with Hubbard's in association with Solgas, Flow, Grenadian General Insurance, Carib Brewery, Coca-Cola, Grenada Bottling Company, Grenlec, Communal Cooperative Credit Union, Dutch Lady Milk, Promo, Danny and Supreme. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back. Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley calls out the international community for its failure to act on critical issues. Barbados Today relates this story.
Prime Minister Mia Mottley took the international community to task for its failure to act on a range of critical issues facing the world. Addressing the United Nations General Assembly today, she lamented that 3 years since making her maiden speech to the group, little had changed despite increasing perilous challenges. She insisted that global moral leadership is needed now more than ever, as she demanded answers on what more it will take for leaders to stand up.
How many more variants of COVID-19 must arrive? How many more? Before a worldwide action plan for vaccinations will be implemented? How many more deaths must it take before 1.7 billion excess vaccines in the possession of the advanced countries of the world will be shared with those who have simply no access to vaccines? How much more fake news will we allow to be spread without states defending the public digital space? We've come together with alacrity to defend the right of states to tax across the digital space, but we are not prepared to come together with the same alacrity to defend the rights of our citizens to be duped by fake news in the same digital space. And how many more surges must there be before we ask, when will the world take action? None are safe until all are safe.
The Prime Minister warned that the world continues to gamble with its future, and now is the time for leadership. She questioned who will sign the new charter for the 21st century that will bring hope and progress to the world's people.
Who will get up and stand up for the rights of our people? Who will stand up in the name of all those who have died during this awful pandemic? The millions. Who will stand up in the name of all those who have died because of the climate crisis? Or who will stand up for the small island developing states who need 1.5 degrees to survive as we go to COP26? Who will stand up? Not with a little token, but with real progress. And who will stand up for all in our countries who remain and suffer the indignity of unemployment and underemployment, and whose access to food is now compromised by increased food prices and increased transportation prices, and transportation, quite frankly, that is being manipulated. It is not beyond us to solve this problem. If we can find the will to send people to the moon and solve male baldness, as I've said over and over, we can solve simple problems like letting our people eat at affordable prices and making sure that we have the transport.
Over in Trinidad, Gary Griffith says if he is not given a second term as Commissioner of Police, he will continue to contribute to Trinidad and Tobago. He says he is a patriot and his country always comes first. Cindy Raghubatika Singh of TV6 News reports.
In a social media post in which he signs off as Acting Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith explains why he challenged how he was suspended by the Police Service Commission. Griffith says, quote, "What I stood up for was an unfair suspension at the hands of the PSC, which cast a cloud of suspicion over me without describing what the suspicion was about," end quote. Griffith says his fight has always been in the process taken by the PSC, as no evidence has been presented to him, and he has not even been called upon to answer any accusation to date. The letter, he says, was signed by the PSC's chairman with no explanation as to why, which put him in an untenable situation where he could not sit back and allow a direct attack on his integrity by the commission. He says he has no fight with either the government or any independent institution, adding that it is clear people still do not get him. Griffith states, quote, "I am actually quite simple at my core. I am a hard worker, a doer, and a patriot. My country always comes first. If at the end of this process I am not chosen, I will continue to contribute to my country in another way. The Police Service, the Police Service Commission, the Office of the President, the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, and the Judiciary are just but some of the institutions in this country that are bigger than Gary Griffith and will outlast Gary Griffith," unquote. Cindy Raghubatika Singh, TV6 News.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Antigua's Prime Minister Gaston Brown has defended Cabinet's mandatory vaccination policy for employees in the public service. He says the measure is needed to keep public servants safe and achieve herd immunity. Jamie J. Roger of ABS News reports.
Prime Minister the Honorable Gaston Brown says his government is standing behind its mandatory vaccination policy. He says it's part of his administration's multi-pronged approach to reach unvaccinated citizens and residents.
This notion that the unvaccinated comprise a homogeneous group of people who will all respond exclusively to public education, public awareness, and persuasion. That's a flawed argument. They're not homogeneous. People respond to different stimuli.
He says the government will also continue public education and awareness about vaccines. The Prime Minister says if people choose not to take the vaccine and stay home, they will abandon their jobs. He cautions this will result in them not being able to cover their financial obligations.
That's your choice. And no one who takes that decision should subsequently say that the government was punitive or our policy was discriminatory.
The Prime Minister says throughout the pandemic, the government has kept every public sector worker on staff despite losing 20% of its revenue. He says he's astonished some have opposed the vaccine mandates, which he says the government introduced to create a safe working environment.
Public servants have the gumption to be threatening us and challenging us. Really? And then some of them telling us that they're going to withdraw their labor. Well, guess what? The cabinet has all taken a position, well, fine, you withdraw your labor, we're going to put somebody else in your position. And sometimes, and it's not a threat, but sometimes temporary becomes permanent. But what we do know, we will not allow any employee or any group of employers to hold this country hostage.
Several unions have opposed the mandates, including the Antigua Trades and Labor Union, which have historic ties with the ruling Antigua and Barbados Labour Party. Prime Minister Brown insists the union should remove its leadership.
This is not the AWU. This is the Antigua Trades and Labor Union. First union in this country that fought for the upliftment of the people of Antigua and Barbuda, that took the people of Antigua and Barbuda out of abject poverty. And you're telling me now that the same union going to take a position to expose its members to hospitalizations and deaths?
He says some leaders have also made what he calls ridiculous arguments concerning COVID-19 testing.
They are not fit for purpose, and all of them must go. Ambassador Wiggly George, Hugh Joseph, all of them must go.
Jamie J. O'Shea, ABS News.
During a virtual press conference on Thursday, executive members of the People's National Congress, Dr. Van West Charles and Dr. Karen Cummings, called for the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, to either step up or step aside, as they believe that he has not been delivering favorable results in the fight against COVID-19. Wendell Badri of HGP Nightly News has the details.
Dr. Karen Cummings, who served as the Junior Minister of Health from 2016 to 2019 under the coalition government, called for the minister to step aside if he cannot provide specific information to questions such as how many free PCR testing sites are situated around the country and their exact locations, how many vaccinated persons have died from COVID-19, how many children are and have been infected with COVID-19 and have any died, as well as how many persons who have underlying conditions have received vaccinations, among others.
The PNCR calls on this government, once again, to take politics out of health and have a national, multi-stakeholder approach that would result in no deaths, less infections, and less hospitalizations.
During a question and answer segment, it was asked of the two executive members whether they believe that a lockdown of the country might be necessary at this time, given the high number of infections and deaths of recent.
It is not necessary if the program is managed properly and there is adherence to the public health guidelines and they are monitored. There is a system of monitoring together with the vaccination.
Dr. Charles went on to state, however, that if adequate monitoring and vaccination of the population is not effected, then strict curfew measures and even a lockdown of the country may become necessary. Meanwhile, as the two-party executives continuously called for Dr. Frank Anthony to step down from his post as Minister of Health throughout the press conference, it was asked of them, what steps, if any, would be taken to ensure he does, if he does not do it willingly?
Take the necessary political actions as we see fit. And we have to stand up in protection of and show the leadership for the country with respect to this level of arrogance that we see being displayed by the government of such an important national security issue.
Earlier in June, two motions were brought before the Clerk of the National Assembly, Sherlock Isaacs, by the Leader of the Opposition, Joseph Harmon, calling for the Minister of Home Affairs, Robeson Ben, as well as the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, to step down as government ministers, citing their ineptitude to manage their portfolios. Those motions were subsequently received by the Speaker of the House, Mansour Nadir, who informed that he would be seeking advice on the matter, and thus he solicited the advice of the Attorney General, Anil Nandlal, who informed the media in August that he has since tendered the advice to the Speaker and would allow the Speaker to make announcements on that at the reconvening of Parliament. This newscast reached out to Nadir to solicit information on those motions, but was repeatedly told that Parliament is in recess, suggesting that he is unwilling to provide any answer to the question posed about the motions. Meanwhile, Dr. Cummings reiterated the call for the government and opposition members to come together during this period to consolidate ideas and create a national action plan, which she believes would lead to a more effective way of treating with the pandemic and its devastating effects, not only on lives, but also livelihoods.
This is an opportune time for us to come together as one humanity, to work together, to learn together, to grow together, And so the greatest drivers of COVID is a lack of solidarity and sharing.
At his recent speech at the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly on Thursday, President Irfan Ali echoed similar sentiments to world leaders.
Our citizens look to us
the representatives of nations who gather here to create conditions that will ease fear, erase doubt, and give hope. Yet, what they see are not nations united. They see nations divided.
Wendell Battery for the HGB Nightly News.
Did you know that your friends and family can now shop at the Food Fair from anywhere in the world and you can receive here in Grenada? The Food Fair and GrenadaMarket.com now make it possible through secure online shopping and personalized customer service. Simply send your loved ones a list of your preferred items or let them fill an online basket and the items will be available for pickup or delivery. Visit GrenadaMarket.com or thefoodfair.gd today for more details. The new norm. Spread the news.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.